We do have some breaking news. We got new video just in. This was video first obtained by PBS of Donald Trump speaking yesterday. He was at some kind of a screening for a documentary in Milwaukee, and he told a private group there in this crowd, he talked to them extensively, more extensively than we have heard about the shooting, the attempted assassination on Saturday. Let's listen.
This has been our best campaign, and then I got shot. How does that happen? Well, you say, how did that happen? But I got lucky. God was with me, I tell you. That was, that's what they call a close call. That was an amazing, horrible thing, amazing thing, and in many ways it changes your attitude, your viewpoint on life. And I think, honestly, I think you appreciate God even more. I really do, because something happened something happened. Not that it was pleasant. It wasn't like it was a complete miss, but it was pretty terrible that can happen.
Again, sort of the most extensive comments we have heard from Donald Trump about that, maybe a preview of how he will discuss it tonight during his acceptance speech at the Republican National Convention.
CNN's Elena Treen tracking all of it for us from here in Milwaukee. Elena, Donald Trump has said that he wants to offer a message of unity, that he's changed his speech since his near-death experience. But what are you hearing is the campaign's goal tonight with this major address?
Well, Kate, he does want there to be a unifying message. And it's interesting because Donald Trump, after the shooting, I've spoken to many of people close to the former president, his allies, his senior advisors, and they've all argued that he really has been viewing that attempted assassination on him in a spiritual way. He believes that his ability to avoid a near-death experience was some sort of divine intervention. I do think you're going to hear some of that on stage tonight. And also, when I talked to Donald Trump's team, they said, look, he'll of course speak about his policies, about the policies that he enacted in his first administration, the America First ideals that we often associate with the MAGA movement. But you're not going to see that type of really vitriolic and sometimes, political rhetoric that we know that he, really targets, that aggressive language and critical language of Joe Biden, of Democrats overall. However, I will note, Kate, that Donald Trump does not like to be vulnerable. We've seen a lot of vulnerability this week, particularly when you saw Kai Trump, his granddaughter, give a speech last night. You heard from Lara Trump, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, all of them share personal anecdotes of the former president. You're going to try to see some of that humanity tonight as well, I'm told, in that speech.
Joining us now is Republican Governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu. Governor, it is good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. You are not in the business of giving advice to Democrats, that's for sure. But what do you make of all of this new reporting that is coming out, especially that the former Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, met with Biden to show him polling that and the reporting is, and she told him that the polling shows he cannot beat Donald Trump. What do you make of this?
Well, look, I was on this very show, CNN, over a year ago, and I said Biden would not be the nominee on the ticket. And no one loves an "I told you so" moment more than a politician. But I think this is the reality. I think the pressures are really there. There's a lot of emphasis and a lot of positive unity on the Republican side. As a Republican, I think that's great. We're having a tremendous week. But as soon as the convention's done, around Monday, Tuesday, all the attention is going to focus right on Joe Biden. And they're going to say, what are you going to do now? Because now we're in real trouble. And as was just noted, you guys are talking about they're finally forcing him to look at the data. So I still very much believe Biden will not be the nominee. Kamala Harris will be there. And my warning to Republicans is, don't take that for granted. That's not an easy race. If Kamala were smart, she's going to pick a Democrat governor like a Shapiro or Andy Beshear, something like that. That's a new, refreshed ticket. It's a short timeline, but don't count them out by any means. And Republicans up and down the ticket are going to have to run hard to close this deal so we can win in November.
Big speech tonight. The former president accepting his acceptance speech, accepting the nomination. It's going to be his first real substantive, real speech since the assassination attempt. One that, since he has said himself that he now wants to, he's torn up the speech and he wants to focus more on unity. You have not always been a fan of Donald Trump. You have, shared your fair criticism of him and his policies and his
Rhetoric.
character with me. Yeah, there you go, rhetoric. But what does unity look like, do you think, from Donald Trump? Do you believe that? I mean, what are you expecting from tonight?
Yeah, I think unity from the former president is unity for America. And it's not just going to be a message to the MAGA base or one part of the party. Clearly, everybody has come on board on the Republican side. Folks that had their doubts and all that sort of thing. Folks like myself who worked really hard to get another nominee in there. And we worked hard and we had our primary and the voters chose. Unlike the Democrats, on the Republican side, the voters made their choice. It wasn't my choice, but the voters made their choice. And now it's down to A versus B. That's Biden versus Trump today. So I think the opportunity for the former president is to talk to all of America, to even talk to those Democrats that are still hanging on the Democrat ticket with all fingernails saying, please, give me a better option than Joe Biden. He's going to be talking to them. He's going to be talking to a lot of folks in the Rust Belt, in Michigan and in Pennsylvania, back in Georgia, all those swing states, those folks that might have walked away in 2020 but realized that we got to bring this country together. So I think it's going to be a good speech. I think what you've seen in the last 100 days, even well before the assassination attempt, the debate showed a sense of professionalism from his campaign, a sense of discipline, if you will, on messaging, not just being completely blustery and going out there and just shooting from the hip. He's keeping his message fairly controlled, and that's exactly what you want to see in a candidate at this point. And I think it's going to resonate tonight and be very successful.
You mentioned J.D. Vance. You think he's a good running mate. One thing that we heard from J.D. Vance last night, especially in talking about the economy, is, the way he pitched it, it did not sound like something you'd hear from Donald Trump, from a Republican. He went after the Wall Street barons. He went after big business. One line that really stuck was, America's ruling class wrote the checks, and then it was our communities that paid the price, trashing free trade. This was a la Bernie Sanders, which was noted last night afterward. Is that going to have broad appeal? Is that the new position of the new Republican Party? Do you see that as successful?
I don't know if how broad of an appeal those exact positions have, but what does have an appeal is the contrast between him and Donald Trump. They clearly get along, and what you're seeing is not someone that just agrees necessarily with every position and every stance that Donald Trump has taken or I've taken or anyone's taken, and that's okay. It's saying that within the party we can have a variety of ideas and a variety of approaches here. So Donald Trump, clearly born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and obviously had a lot of economic advantages. J.D. didn't. And talking about that background and about that contrast, that connects with folks that struggle with drug addiction, that have been kind of suffering in poverty for too many years. He's lived it. That's a real life experience that could now be at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. That's an amazing opportunity that I think a lot of families are going to connect with. And yes, it's not Donald Trump's story. It's not every position that every Republican necessarily wants to take. But it's saying we're going to put these ideas on the table. We're going to challenge the status quo. We're going to challenge that establishment. And I think 24 is all about that. People want the Washington establishment, the Washington elite, to be disrupted and challenged. That's why Trump won in 16. I think that's why he's going to do very well again in 24. So it's that kind of nature and that kind of disruption, I think, that as a team they bring to the table and resonates very well with a spectrum of American families.
Governor Sununu, good to see you. Thank you.